Okay, so Unit 9, Worksheet 1, numbers 12, 16, and 18. If you're having trouble with these three, then you're probably having trouble whenever you have a base raised to an exponent and then your answer is smaller than what your base started as. So that can mean one of two things. You can either, option 1 is you have a fractional exponent. Which would represent you taking the radical of your number. So taking a square root, cube root, etc. And then option 2 is if you wouldn't take the square root or the cube root or something like that to get your answer, then maybe you got a fraction for an answer where your base moved to the denominator. So let's go back and talk about what kind of exponent that would be. So a fractional exponent, something that moves your base from the numerator to the denominator, is going to be a negative exponent. Or so to the denominator or the numerator. So we'll just say across the fraction line. Okay, so number 12. If you can already set it up in exponential form, that's good. So you have 8 to the x power equals 2. So you can either figure out which one of these is correct over here. You can change both sides to have the same base if you can do that. Or you can kind of just say, well, is there a root that I can take of 8 to give me 2? So I know right off the top of my head that the cube root of 8 is 2, but that, I'm a math teacher, so some of you may remember that, but this is written as an exponent over here. So how do I write the cube root as an exponent? Well, that would be 8 to the 1/3 power if it's a cube root. So our answer is going to be 1/3, but I'm going to show you another way to get there as well. So if I take both sides of my equation here and make sure I write them as the same base, then it's going to help me out. So 8 is the same as 2 to the 3rd because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. And I still have an x up there, so that would be 3 times x. So now I have 2 to the 3x and 2 to the 1st power. So you can, because the bases are exactly the same, you can set the exponents equal to each other. So this would actually give me 3x equals 1. And then you could divide by 3 on each side and get 1/3. Now, the idea is that you're getting this part on the right-hand side, that you're understanding that the cube root of 8 is 2, because we haven't really done equations and solving equations yet. But if you understand how to change the base, that's going to help you later down the line. So start practicing your perfect squares and perfect cubes. We won't go much higher than that. Number 16, go ahead and get a new page. Number 16, if you set up the exponential equation, you should have got 3 to some power gives you 1/3. Because they're the same base, but one's in the numerator and one's in the denominator, I am going to change this right-hand side. Remember, the base is 3, so I can write that as 3 to the first power. I keep the left-hand side the same. This becomes 3 to the negative 1, because anytime you move a base across the fraction line, the exponent becomes negative, and it started out as a positive 1. So I move it across the fraction line, it becomes a negative 1, which then gives me my exponent would be negative 1. And then for 18, was 100 to what power gives you 0.01. Okay, here's right off the bat. I gave you 2 answers for when you have a bigger number and to get to a smaller number. I gave you 2 scenarios. And those 2 scenarios are you either have a fractional exponent or a negative exponent. Fractional exponents are radicals, so they give you some type of root. And negative exponents move your answer across the fraction line. Now, this is a decimal, but we know that decimals can be written as fractions. So whenever you get a decimal, please write it as a fraction. So this is the tenths and the hundredths place. So you have 1/100th. So that is 1 over 100, which then helps me because this is 100 to the first power. And just like the previous problem that we just solved, you can change the right-hand side. We can move the base up, which makes our fraction negative, which means, again, x is negative 1.